Thank you, Kenda, and good to see you. What a great workshop this is, and how exciting that we're actually talking about what science and activities we could be doing in exploration and on the lunar surface. So, next slide, please. Okay, well, very excited to be sharing, that BPS in our division. We use that spaceflight environment, whether it's in LEO or as we move out into the lunar vicinity to study what happens to both biology and physical systems. So, in these extreme environments, we see a lot of unique changes that occur. And we are really excited to see what happens as we get to that partial G and deep space radiation environment. Next slide, please. So our mission in BPS is to pioneer scientific discovery. So we take that fundamental, looking at the fundamental science that happens and all of that phenomena that's occurring at both that biological and physical sciences level, and then using that information to help NASA achieve its objectives to enable exploration. And then all of the information and the science that we learn both in LEO and in the deep space environment contributes to life on Earth. So next slide, please. In BPS, we have several different program areas, and many of you are familiar with probably all of them, but in the two prime categories of space biology, where we look across all living organisms, whether it's at the basic level of bacteria, virus, to all the way up to the human tissue chips and such. In physical sciences, we cover all the physical phenomena from cryogenic fluid transfer to material science, combustion, and even quantum science and fundamental physics. Our commercially enabled rapid space science is a bit new program where we're actually working to address speeding up the rate at which we can do science in the space environment. So first adopting that in the LEO, low Earth orbit environment, and then translating that perhaps to Gateway and the lunar surface in the future. And we also have our open science initiatives where all of the data and information that we obtain through science, much like SMD and the entire directorate, is open once that science concludes for you to gain insights from. Next slide, please. And so we have so many different impacts from the science that we do, and I'm sure many of you could think of more than what I share here, but biomedical research. We're using tissue chips to understand toxicity and what happens in these spaceflight environments. And more recently, as you heard earlier, we've had a call with the ISS National Lab on igniting innovation to address the Cancer Moonshot Initiative. We've had agricultural innovations that's been able to facilitate different plant watering systems and the way that we can grow things in partnership with the USDA. And we've addressed some consumer product areas where, like, for example, Procter & Gamble has actually adapted one of their product lines in Febreze to using the information that they learned from research done up on the International Space Station. And then technology advancements, just one small example or large example for some of the environments is taking a look at using the cryogenic fluid transfer models that are developed from our physical sciences teams, the Lockheed Martin and SpaceX and other organizations are improving the efficiency of their cryogenic fluid transfer with the models being developed by BPS. Next slide, please. So this was a big year for BPS. We received our decadal survey. These are the reports that derive the science directions. You all are aware that this is key in the Science Mission Directorate. Our decadal survey, called Thriving in Space, had 3 science themes: adapting to space, living and traveling in space, and probing phenomena hidden by Earth. There were 11 key scientific questions, and many of these are questions that we've already been addressing through all of the science we've been doing in the spaceflight environment. There were 2 major research campaigns. One was focusing on the bioregenerative life support system and how do we maintain, life and sustainable presence off Earth. And then the other campaign had to do with material science called Matrices And that one was, how do we learn and build the infrastructure and capabilities that we need to live off Earth? And there were 25 recommendations associated with that. And our response to this decadal survey was posted this past spring, and we'll continue to develop this as we move forward over the next year. Next slide, please. So just a little background before we dive into all the really cool science that we've been doing as we move out into the lunar environment. You know, science, it's a legacy at NASA all the way back to Project Mercury. So we've been doing science, you know, and so much parabolic flights. Parabolic flights haven't ended even at this date. We just now use commercial companies for them. Space shuttle programs. You know, the International Space Station is, you know, still one of our primary research laboratories where we conduct numerous experiments multiple times throughout the year. And we had experiments on Artemis 1 as we start to reach out to that lunar environment. Next slide, please. So as we look forward, and that's what this is all about, this workshop here, and those that follow, are what's that next era of transformative science that we need to be doing in space? So we continue with those commercial parabolic and suborbital flights. We have so much exciting work going on in that area. We lean in towards that new commercial low Earth orbit destinations that will replace the International Space Station. And I know that you've probably heard much about the commercial lunar payload services opportunities. We are working closely with our partners in SEO to see what kinds of opportunities we can offer our science community to do even more science on the lunar surface. And then as we move out to those Moon to Mars objectives, Artemis 2 and 3 and beyond as we look to Gateway. So many exciting opportunities to really transform our science in the future. Next, please. So just wanted to highlight a few active science investigations that we have and that are ongoing or that we're preparing for right now. And I think you'll appreciate all of these as much as I do. So we completed Bioexperiment 1. This was a consortium of 4 different experiments that went on Artemis 1. We're still waiting for those final results to be published, and I think they're very soon to get the publications out. What we looked at plants, algae, fungus, and yeast, and the effect of that deep space environment on these living organisms. Next, please. And more recently, you know, in the Biological and Physical Sciences division, we don't do everything in the space environment. We start on the ground. So here was a ground-based research project where we were able to partner with the NASA's Astromaterials Research and Exploration Sciences Division. And this is the group that has that curation facility for all of the Apollo regolith, and be able to distribute samples to teams to assess what happens in plants, what happens and how do they grow in that environment. And then also what happens to the animal, human, cellular, and the tissue systems that are exposed to it. And once they pass their lunar simulant, you know, preliminary investigations, they can request the real regolith to repeat that study and make that comparison. Next slide, please. And then Leia. So this is an experiment that came out of the Biological and Physical Sciences division that was proposed in one of those SEO calls called PRISM. And this one was selected and is being funded by SEO. It will examine the effect of the lunar environment and that deep space radiation on yeast. So this is a very small sat that's going forward and it will be on a CLIPS mission. Okay, next, please. This was a more recent award that we had in partnership with SEO, one of our prime partners here in getting exploration mission capabilities. And this is where we're going to look at growing plants on the moon. So we're not going to put them directly on the moon in the lunar regolith, but we'll be able to investigate, you know, at that lunar South Pole region, what that effect is like, and observe for the first time ever plant photosynthesis and growth, and then that systemic response to the space radiation and partial gravity. we don't have data like that in life form related to life. So these are some Pathfinder experiments to really inform us as we look to sustainable presence. And next slide, please. And we have flammability of materials on the moon. So this is an exciting investigation. So this one is, we are going to hitch a ride with SpaceX on the uncrewed demo. And it's going to the surface of the moon, and it's proof of concept before we send crew into their landing system. And we'll be able to evaluate the flammability phenomena in lunar gravity and in the Artemis environment, because we're looking at modifying the oxygen content. So what's really exciting, we'll be able to do some truth validation, ground truth validation in the systems. And will inform us, can we use centrifuges, drop towers, and other types of LEO or lunar gravity analogs to get that data? How does it compare when you are in that actual environment? It will help us refine our flammability models in partial gravity. And this is extremely important, especially as we look to send crew out to the lunar environment and, have that environment so that they can reduce the pre-breathe necessary to maximize their time on the lunar surface. So we're really excited because we all know that combustion does not behave the same in low Earth orbit, and we anticipate very broad differences in the partial gravity environment as well. So next slide, please. So as you can see, in BPS, we've been working towards that, ground-based research that I was mentioning, looking towards parabolic flights, suborbital flights, and then low Earth orbit, where we really lean into the International Space Station. But as we look to the future, we're advancing in the research being done in the Artemis missions and on Gateway, and then the commercial lunar landers that are taking place through SEO, partnering with them to offer opportunities in that area. And there are the Artemis deployed instrument calls that come out, and we're taking quite a bit of advantage of those as well. And so we are really spanning the entire range of opportunities available to understand what happens in all of these different environments as we move through Earth to eventually the Martian orbit and Martian surface. So did want to highlight really quick before I see my time is wrapping up that we do partner closely, as I've said several times, with SEO and other organizations within NASA. And you'll be hearing from Steve Platts in the Human Research Program. They're one of our strong partners as well. And so when you see opportunities come out, a lot of times there will be ties to BPS or the science that we are doing within BPS. So look for those opportunities, and we look forward to seeing the research that you propose and awarding even more exciting research in the future as we move to lunar and Martian surface. With that, I would say thank you.